What's up, Hoopers? Another video here. Today we're talking NBA busts. When it goes down to the NBA history of the biggest busts ever, there's a name that constantly comes up. Not only because he was a bust, but the dude was weird. Adam Morrison. This is a guy who came in coveted as the next Larry Bird. He scored 28 points a game in college. He was co-player of the year with J.J. Redick. He was supposed to be the next big player for the Charlotte Bobcats to build around. By 2010, just 4 years later, he was completely out of the league. Is he the NBA's biggest bust? I'm not here to just use his name and defame it. I'm here to tell you I grew up playing against him. I grew up right down the road from him. I played many games and I watched all his entire career, and I'm going to give you crazy in-depth stories that you're probably not going to get from anybody else besides himself. So if you want to really learn about the NBA bust, or maybe not a bust, Adam Morrison, that's what we're going to talk about. I am your NBA white guy. I talk all things NBA hoops from a hooper's perspective. And if you like that kind of content, then make sure you tap that subscribe button and you click the bell so you're notified every time I do a new video. So my boy Adam Morrison gets all of the blame in the NBA as being the biggest bust. Now, I definitely feel like there's other busts out there, and being a true hooper myself, I hate when you get commentators who just dig up all this stuff negatively in their past and just shred them. So I'm just going to give you real life stories about this dude and how he was a bust, but also how he was an absolute machine, a walking bucket from an early age. I started playing this kid in our early teenage years, even before that, 10, 11, 12. See, it all starts back for me back when we were about 12 years old. I know he moved with his family to Spokane, Washington. I grew up in North Idaho. Now, we were playing at AAU tournaments at a very, very young age. I remember playing against him. His dad was always the coach. He was this super scrawny, just wiry dude. We always thought he was a whiner. He always had this passion. You know, at that age when you play these dudes and there's like those kids who just grow super early, he had two of those players on his team that were like 6'6", 6'8", and we were all like 5'4". One of them was one of his teammates, Sean Mallon. He was a player who did well in the collegiate level, but never the next level. But Morrison, you got to look at this dude in totality. He made the NBA. He was the number 3 draft pick in 2006. He was going to be the savior for the Charlotte Bobcats. He got bounced around the league. He ended up having to go overseas and finally called it quits, and now is regarded as the biggest bust in NBA history. But if you actually take a second to go back and look at this dude's career, especially collegiately, he's probably easily one of the top college players, or at least had one of the greatest college seasons that we will ever see. Now, it started out early as his freshman year. I remember watching him because obviously I grew up playing against him. I was playing college basketball at a college next to him, and so we were definitely regarded as some of these top players in the area. And how many times in this YouTube channel have I talked about what it's like to be in a locker room and like the whole Patrick Beverley and Russell Westbrook arguments, but when you get to play together, it's like, dude, you're my ride or die. I was so excited to go play with him in Vegas, but again, I didn't make it. And this is a dude I grew up playing AAU with, and he used to beat me, so I hated him, and I was excited to play with him. So again, I give you a real hooper's perspective. Now, he went to college. I remember his freshman year averaging 11, 12 points a game, and when you're from the Northwest, Gonzaga is really all you got, and so we were pumped up about him. He was really making a name for himself, had a couple 20-point games, but it was later on. Sophomore year, he really started making a name for himself, but that junior year, he averaged almost 30 points a game. He was the co-player of the year in the entire NCAA with your boy J.J. Redick, who had a beautifully long career, and those were the players of the year. He had multiple 40-plus games. I'll never forget the Maui Invitational at the beginning of the season against Michigan State, triple overtime. He hit the game winner. He had another one against Oklahoma State. He's playing UW, having 40-point games. He was a monster. The Larry Bird talks were out there, and as a guy who grew up playing against him, his shot was untouchable. You ever played those dudes? You ever watch those guys? And when they have that release up high, does that remind you of anybody like Kevin Durant? You can't block it. There's nothing you can do. Now, he's 6'8", 6'9", and he had a very, very skinny, long reach. And when you shoot and release at the top of your head and jump shot, it's impossible to guard. But he never was the most athletic. The dude was fiery. He was wired in a way to where he wanted to win. He's a little bit crazy, and I will tell you some stories of just talking with him. I've gotten to talk to him a few times, And actually, one of his baby mamas is a girl that I grew up with since elementary school. So I don't leverage any of this to say I know everything about him. I don't, but I've got cool stories about him. That's also what I do in this YouTube channel, is I talk all things hoops from this hooper's perspective. So make sure that you're hitting that like button if you like this content, and also make sure that you comment down below, who do you feel is actually the #1 bust in NBA history? So what happened truly to Adam Morrison once he went to the NBA? He was drafted 3rd overall to the Charlotte Bobcats, and everybody wants to paint this picture as he is an absolute bust. He should have never made the league. But if you go back and look, he averaged 12 points a game and played almost all 82 games. He played 78 games his rookie year. Again, I was watching him. It's pretty cool to watch a kid that you grew up playing against and grew up next to really excel in the NBA. And I always hear all these reports and all these people talking about him. I'm like, why is everybody forgetting that last collegiate year, and why is everybody forgetting his first rookie season? Because he actually was on the second team all rookie team. So I mean, you're talking about one of the top 5, 6, 8 best players in the entire NBA for his year, and came in as a #3 pick. So yes, they're supposed to be incredible. They're supposed to be one of the greatest players of all times, but he was not a #1 pick. He was a #3 pick. Look at Milicic. He went before frickin' Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade. Or you look at a guy like Anthony Bennett, who was #1 overall in 2013 for the Cavs and literally never did anything. Kwame Brown, these dudes who were just trash. He was a 3rd overall pick. He averaged 12 points a game as a rookie. He was having a great career playing 78 games, and then injury happened, right? You hear a lot. Some people will call Greg Oden a bust, Sam Bowie, some of these dudes, but when it's hit by injury, I don't think it's typically fair. Now, again, I'm a hooper, so I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. And yes, I do believe, he recovered from that and should have made a better impact on the league. But I got some crazy stories because I talked to him personally. You know who his closest ally was in the NBA? Kobe Bean Bryant. Bryant loved him. You know who else loved him? Ron Artest. These are dudes who were just so mentally out there and crazy obsessed about their game. And Ron Artest, meta piece, is just different. And they loved Adam Morrison. You go read all these articles, you read it up, they talk to him. There's a late night, they were on like Dave Letterman, and it's freaking Kobe Bryant, and he calls out Adam Morrison in the actual interview. Adam, what are you doing tonight? Kobe loved this dude because he was different. He was wired to really play, and this dude was a hooper. One of the, big questions out there, or big comments with somebody's like, yeah, the dude never showered, he smelled like he was a gym rat. That dude played basketball 24/7. Whether he showered or not, I don't know or care. But I have gotten to talk to him a few times, and I said, Adam, what was it like? Because this is also when Kobe went and had his very last game of his entire career, right? Where he went off for 60 points. Guess who he invited? Adam Morrison. If you look at that film, he's down there. And I remember nudging my wife, because my wife's good friends with, again, one of the girls who had his third kid, his son. And I was like, look, there's Morrison right there. He's down there with Kobe, dabbing him up with his ex-Gonzaga player, Robert Sacre and Ronnie Turioff. And I was like, man, that's so cool. And I got to see him at a park in North Idaho afterwards. I'm like, what was that like, dude? He goes, man, it was the craziest night ever. Everything that you could imagine. Kobe doing that. And we had this special moment together where, what do you get Kobe Bryant? Because he had to bring him a gift for his last game. And he got him this book of the top serial killers' mindsets, right? And Kobe said that was the best gift that he's ever received in his life. That's how Kobe Bean Bryant was. And so, when I look at a player like this who got, hit with injury bugs and just never got out of it, he got an ACL tear. And then, the other thing I never mentioned, he also at the age of 13 got type 1 diabetes. Do you realize how difficult that must be? If you have diabetes, you can comment down below. It zaps you. I don't have it personally, thank the Lord, but I've played with 2 different kids in college who had it, and they constantly had to monitor, and they were always zapped of energy. And so when you talk to him, he's like, yeah, in college we played, 1 game a week, 2 games a week, and I could easily manage it. But in the NBA, 82 games, you're literally on the road for weeks on end, and you had to manage it. I was tired all the time, and it could have led to more injuries, had he have not gotten that diabetes. So this is something too that, you got to look into health factors, man, that unfortunately he got hit with. If he didn't have maybe the type 1 diabetes, it's a whole different ballgame. No excuses at the end of the day. He didn't perform to what a number 3 draft pick should, but I just like incorporating a couple extra stories into this. Now, the other aspect of Adam Morrison is every news article that you read is he's this crazy lunatic, got bomb shelters and guns. He's from the Northwest, humans. This is what we do. I grew up in North Idaho. Like, having a big safe or a walk-in room of guns is normal up there. It's not that you're a serial killer. It's just we like guns. And I actually talked to him about it one time, and he's like, yeah, I just love going out shooting. We talked about some of the shooting ranges that we go to. And so for me, it's normal. But I get what the news and the media wants to do is just portray this absolute demon who has guns. And he's just a Northwest kid who enjoys them. And lastly, he did 4 years in the NBA, and then he went overseas and he went into some crazy countries. And again, when you come from a very, very small town, and you see this, I'm not talking about just Northwest kids. You actually see this with a lot of kids across the country. When you're born and raised in an area and you're small town living, especially from where we're at, and not a lot of pros, there's not a lot of pros in the areas. You have nobody to learn from, nobody to lean on. This is when you really get homesick, and you don't have that professional, right? Some people are very lucky to have high schools where there's 10 professionals who came through it, and they come back and tell you everything, and you get these incredible vets, and it's like really can help you when you're away from home. When you're from North Idaho or from Washington State or from Montana, look at Ryan Leaf. He's another NFL bust. But if you listen to the mindset of these dudes, and when they talk now about the past, like, we don't have anybody professional in our areas to really teach us how to go out in there and be millionaires, right? And I wasn't, but I really feel strongly about my college career and could have pushed it farther. But just like Morrison later on got homesick, went home, and Ryan Leaf later on, being the only professional ever to come out of Montana, you got nobody to lean on. You just go back to what you're comfortable with, and that's that small town life. So I do know he's residing back there over in that Spokane area. You've seen him on the bench with Gonzaga helping out, and you're definitely going to see him at some poker tables or playing golf or out shooting guns. That's just what he does. So I hope you enjoyed those stories. I wanted to just bring my own perspective, Hooper's perspective. We look at some of these NBA busts, and I don't put him there if he got hit with injuries. You let me know down in the comments below, who do you feel is the #1 NBA bust of all time? Let me know. And if you're loving these videos, make sure you hit that like button and you tap the subscribe button so you never miss a thing. And until my next video, homies, we'll catch you later.